Hi, this is Scott McLeod from Brown Financial Advisory. I'd like to spend a few minutes with you talking about cybersecurity and how to protect you, your family, and your business from cyber criminals. We're going to discuss a few items today so that we can hack-proof your finances, and I hope this is a great help. So let's get started. Our agenda today is, first of all, don't be fooled. You have to understand that much of your information is already out on the internet, and therefore you have to take extra steps now in order to protect your finances. And I'm going to demonstrate some of the things that have happened in the most recent events in criminal activity and things that you could expect to happen potentially to you. And then finally, we'll talk about 7 action steps that you can take to protect yourself, protect your finances, your family, and your businesses. So first of all, don't be fooled. There have been so many cyber hacks over the last 10 years that many millions and even in some cases billions of records have been lost to hackers of large corporations. So the first one, for example, was Yahoo in 2013 and 2014. They lost personal information of over 3 billion users, and therefore if you've had a Yahoo account or had any relationship to Yahoo, there's a good chance that your information has been hacked. Another very scary hack occurred in 2017, and this was the Equifax breach that made all the headline news. Now, Equifax, of course, is a credit reporting agency, and they know just about everything there is to know about us. And they were hacked, and they lost 147 million records of U.S. citizens and across the world. And those records contained names, addresses, social security numbers, and lots of additional information. Even more recently is a Capital One breach that occurred in 2019. This breach affected over 100 million people, Capital One users, bank users, credit card users, etc. And again, names, addresses, credit scores, and login information. T-Mobile was another large organization that lost many records in 2021 and then again in 2023. 77 million users in 2021 and over 40 million users in 2023. So much of that information now is on the internet. And possibly the scariest of all the hacks was the National Public Data hack that happened early last year. National Public Data was an organization that provided background checks for employers. They collected tons of information on many people, names, addresses, personal relationships, family relationships, social security numbers, dates of birth, mailing addresses, etc. And they lost 2.9 billion records last year. So it would be very difficult for you to think that after losing that much information on the internet, and then again the Equifax breach that happened a few years ago, that your information is safe and secure, because it really can't possibly be. It would be a fluke that wasn't on the dark web, and that's where most of the criminals will go to find it. So it's stored there for sale and for future hacking. So the idea is now we have to progress and find ways to protect ourselves. The first place in going to protect ourselves is to know exactly what the risks are. So the next part of the presentation is to share some of the more common hacks that the cyber criminals are using to attack you and your personal financial information. The first one, of course, is credit card fraud, and we've all experienced this in one way or another. It wasn't too long ago that my credit card ended up in Mexico and a fraudulent charge was made there. They refunded the charge, but that's an example of credit card fraud. And you've heard other examples where people are stealing the numbers or stealing the data from RFID chips. So it's a real risk for all of our finances. The second one is social security number theft. This is where a cyber criminal gets access to your social security and then takes credit out in your name. This is one of the more scary hacks because they go to the bank, they take a credit out, take some loan out in your name, and then you're responsible for paying it back unless you can prove it wasn't you. So it's you to repair your credit file, it's you to repair the relationship with the bank, etc. So losing your social security number is very important, and obviously it's likely on the dark web anyway, so you have to go extra lengths to protect yourself. The next thing is medical identity theft. Medical identity theft is where someone pretends to be you and gets medical care or prescriptions in your name. This can impact your health records and forces you to go back and repair those records, and can then therefore impact things like insurance coverages and your premiums that you pay. Important to protect that data. The next one is tax identity theft. This is an example where someone files a fraudulent tax return in your name, collects your tax refund, for example, and then you have to go back and prove to the IRS that it wasn't you, and to file again, getting another refund potentially sent to you. Time and effort in repairing what has been broken because someone accessed your information. Another one is something they refer to as account takeover. This is an example where someone gains access to a password on an email account, for example, or a bank account, and they're able to secure that bank account or that email account and get additional information about you through that account. And then the last one is ransomware. Ransomware is an example where they download information from onto your computer or onto your cell phone and lock it down, threatening to delete all of your information on the computer unless you send them a payment. And this is something that happens often to businesses, and you've heard examples of this where they hold the information hostage. So this is also very common where they access the network through a weak point or a weak person, and as the result they gain access and they download the ransomware onto your computer or your cell phone. What are the more interesting hacks and scary examples that we had actually occurred in Hong Kong not too long ago? A banker was working for a multinational bank in Hong Kong, and he was contacted by one of his commercial clients. They requested that they transfer $25 million from the bank, and the banker knew the requesting company and the people who were involved. So just to make sure and get additional security, he asked for a video conference with the people who had made the request. Well, the hackers actually used deepfake technology, and you can Google that if you're not familiar with it, to pretend to be the leadership of the company requesting the funds. They were so good that they fooled the banker, and the banker sent out $25 million to a fraudulent hacking organization. So the sophistication is increasing substantially, and believe it or not, we've even seen an example here in our office where one of our employees was attacked by deepfake technology, not on the company level but on a personal level, and she was able to figure it out. But it's more and more prevalent, and the computers and the information is traveling so fast now, especially with AI technology, we're more and more vulnerable. So what do we do about it? The next part of the presentation is just to give you 7 basic steps, things that you can do, action steps that you can take to protect yourself and your family. I would encourage you not to use this as information, but use this as a checklist. We're going to go through each one individually, and if you'll implement these, I can guarantee you'll be much safer on the internet, and your information will be much greater protected from here forward. The first thing I'd love for you to do is to freeze your credit. You can go to this website called annualcreditreport.com and click on the link that says Protect Your Identity. That Protect Your Identity link will then lead you to another one that says Security Freeze Basics, and you need to freeze your credit. What that involves is 3 credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and those 3 credit reporting agencies will have to be frozen individually. You'll open an account at each one, use a secure ID and password, and then freeze your credit. If you need to unfreeze your credit so that you can get a new credit card, or if you need a home equity loan, for example, you just log in, unfreeze it for some given period of time, and then refreeze it right away to keep your information protected. The idea is freezing your credit locks down your credit file from inquiries. And if a bank goes to your credit file to see if you're credit worthy, they can't get in unless you unlock your credit. It's one of the easiest and best ways to thwart identity theft, because if they can't take a loan out in your name, you're going to be much better protected going forward. So go in and freeze your credit using annualcreditreport.com. The next thing is use a password manager. So password managers like NordPass or 1Password or LastPass, those store complicated passwords for you so that you don't have to use easy passwords that you can remember, or a sticky note on your computer, and otherwise expose your computer to hacking. If you'll go in, they'll store the passwords for you. They fill them for you when you're working on the internet, and you can use much stronger passwords going forward without the need to remember all the different passwords. So I would encourage you to use a password manager to make your passwords stronger and make them easier to access. The third thing, if you haven't done this already, is to secure your home Wi-Fi. Now, most people do not do this, but I would encourage you to change your home Wi-Fi password at least every few months. It would be nice if you did it every 90 days. And certainly if you have never changed the default password on your Wi-Fi, very important to do that. The hackers know what the default passwords are for the Wi-Fis, and they can get on your Wi-Fi and become what they refer to as the man in the middle, collecting all the data that you transfer back and forth to the internet. So every time you're doing banking information, or if you buy something from the internet on Amazon, they collect all that information and they're able to hack your information because they have that access. So secure your home Wi-Fi by changing your password and making sure the encryption is correct, and making sure that you have strong passwords as you access your Wi-Fi at home. The next thing that I would encourage you to do is add multi-factor authentication to everything that you access that is important. So your bank accounts, your Schwab investment accounts, everything that might relate back to you financially should have multi-factor authentication. This is just an example where maybe you put your ID and password in, and then they send you a text to make sure that it is you on your phone. So that gives you one layer of extra protection that maybe a hacker doesn't have, and it prevents them from being able to get into your information. So be sure every opportunity you have to add two-factor authentication to your financial information on your website. The next thing is avoid clicking links in emails. I know this one is hard, but you get emails from your bank, emails from Schwab, emails from just about everybody else. And now the hackers are so sophisticated that you cannot tell whether or not an email is legitimate. If you click the link, there's a good chance it will be a link to download ransomware to your phone or your computer, or some type of hacking software to track all your keystrokes and just capture your passwords. So it's very important, don't click the links, but rather if there's a link that you feel like you need to go to, go directly to the website and log in and access it that way. Do not click the links in the emails, because that's just more and more opportunity for phishing emails or spoofing emails to create an opportunity for the hackers to get to your information. Another thing that you can do is use a unique email address for all of your financial information. So you create another email account and just use that one account for your banking and investment information, for example. The thing that this does is it helps because it clears it away from your personal emails. It reduces the number of spam emails that you might receive. And also it helps you spot those fraudulent emails that have the links that you could click, because there are fewer emails to review, first of all. And also if you get a random email from an unknown organization, you'll know it's not yours because all of your other accounts are linked to that one email. So create a unique email and use that email address only for financial information. And then finally, probably the hardest thing out there, and the big ask here, is limit how much information you share on social media. The more information the hackers have about you, the easier it is for them to get your information and to create an environment where they can get to you and get to all the things that you own. So I would encourage you not to share too much information on social media, which just gives ammunition to the hackers. Rather, share general information if you like. Be careful about sharing your children's information, because eventually they'll be adults and that information will be on the internet as well. So just be more diligent about that, keeping your financial information in mind as you make those posts to Facebook and all the others that are involved in that. Just be careful about that. So those are 7 steps that I would love for you to implement. Now, each one of those steps requires a little bit of time, and if you need help, please let me know. But I know that there's one thing that will absolutely be true about this, is that the hackers are out there trying to get to your information all the time. Now, this is a little bit about the parable about the bear, and I have a friend, he and I spot the bear, and I put on my running shoes, and he says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." And I just say, "I just have to outrun you. I don't have to outrun the bear." So the idea is, if you're outrunning your peers by having more security in your finances, then what that means is that you'll be better suited and better able to defend yourself. The criminals will pass over you, move on to the next person, and you won't be the low-hanging fruit, and you'll outrun the bear. So I hope this is helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions, or if you need any help implementing any of the strategies, and we look forward to talking with you again soon.